This is 12 on your side tonight.
Now at 7, results rolling in on election night. We're on your side, breaking down what's at stake in the Commonwealth and across the country.
Plus, a growing number of Americans taking on more jobs to offset rising prices, who experts say is leading this trend.
And another warm day across Central Virginia. Meteorologist Ross Runner is in the First Alert Weather Center tonight, timing out a cool down.
Well, it's done. You made your decision, and now the results are coming in. We are on your side tonight, continuing our team coverage on election night.
It is 7:30 and the polls are now closed, and there was a steady turnout for much of the day. On your side tonight, Sarah Shackles speaking with voting officials about what they saw in Henrico County.
Are you? Good to see you.
It was a beautiful afternoon at the polls. Voters around Central Virginia turned out to cast their ballots steadily throughout the day.
It started slow, but we're seeing a steady pace, about 50 an hour, which is, and generally we're about 50% turnout, including absentee, and expect we'll probably hit 60, 70%. We tend to be slower in the afternoon, which is pretty good turnout for us.
We saw some candidates greeting voters and Republican and Democratic volunteers handing out what they called sample ballots with the names of everyone on the ticket for their parties.
I'm trying to keep my county, save my state, save my country.
So you're volunteering your time to help out at the polls?
Yes.
And what are you handing out here?
I'm handing out a sample ballot for the Republican candidates.
We also saw a few people taking advantage of the curbside voting option. There are roughly 6.1 million registered voters in Virginia. As of this morning, the state's commissioner for elections says more than 789,000 Virginians have cast their ballots through early voting or through absentee ballots. About 500,000 voted early in person.
Campaigns often have result watch parties afterwards, so that's going to be fun. So it's going to be another long ending to a long day. But it's been a beautiful day. It has been the best weather you could ask for volunteering.
That was Sarah Shackles reporting. As we continue to follow the results of our local races, voters across the country making their voices heard at the polls today.
Franklin White joining us now to break down some of these key elections nationwide, several states.
That's right, and despite this being an off year, politicians and strategists in Washington are keeping a close eye on several races, including right here in Virginia. These races will give signals about what voters are thinking ahead of 2024. In Ohio, residents voted on 2 ballot measures. One would create a law legalizing recreational marijuana, and the other enshrines the right to abortion in the Buckeye State's Constitution. Over in Kentucky, Governor Andy Beshear is running for re-election against GOP challenger Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Now, back in 2019, Beshear won by just more than 5,000 votes. As Attorney General, Cameron has defended the state's near total abortion ban. And in Mississippi, Republican Governor Tate Reeves is running for a second term after winning in 2019 by 5 points. Reeves' Democratic opponent Brandon Presley has kept this race closer than expected over a very public welfare corruption scandal in Reeves' first term. And a lot at stake right here in the Commonwealth, with all 140 seats in the General Assembly up for grabs. We are on your side following the results of all these races tonight. On your side, Franklin White, back to you.
Okay, Franklin, thank you. Continuing our team coverage now, our Director of Investigations is here. Rachel DePompa tracking results for us as they start to trickle in.
And she is joined tonight by a political analyst to talk about what this night means to both Republican and Democrats in Virginia. Rachel.
Well, thanks, Kurt, Jasmine. And I am joined by Dr. Ernest McGowan with the University of Richmond, an associate professor of political science. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with the big picture here. 140 seats up for grabs. The polls are closed. We're waiting for those results to come in. What are Democrats and Republicans feeling right now?
Well, for the Republicans, I think that it's going to be pretty much a referendum on Governor Youngkin. He put a lot of money into a lot of races and was very upfront with campaigning for these particular candidates. And I think that he would be okay if the actual election was a referendum on how he's done the past 2 years.
But that's what my next question is. Is it fair that how this result comes out for him? Because it does seem like abortion is one of the key issues here for Virginians, and it may not be his record.
Right, but what we see is that generally the place where Youngkin and most Virginians are, most Virginian politicians are not the extremes that we see in a lot of states. And so the blunting of whether or not it actually just fits in right with the party may be a little different in Virginia.
All right, so what Republicans are obviously hoping to keep the House flip, the Senate Democrats reverse. What are Democrats thinking tonight?
I think what Democrats are really going to want to know is whether or not turnout and their electoral enthusiasm is going to be more like 2020 when Joe Biden won a lot of these precincts, or more like 2021 when Terry McAuliffe did not. And so when we look at a lot of the districts that we do call toss-ups, both in the Senate and the House, these were districts that went first for Biden and then went for Glenn Youngkin. But the Youngkin margins weren't that wide in those districts that flipped. And so I think that Democrats are really going to try to see whether or not things look more like that presidential election or the other off-year election in 21.
Let's focus on some of the big races here. Which one are you really watching tonight?
Well, the one where the most money and the most advertising was put in is the Senate District 16 with Siobhan Donovan and Skylar Van Valkenburg. And so I think that that's going to be really interesting, both to see what the Democrat strength is in these larger locales, and also whether or not the redistricting is going to have an effect, because people have been moved around to a lot of precincts. And so one of the things I think that's going to be really interesting as we look at this is what happens to someone who was in an uncompetitive district, but then their precinct got moved to a competitive one. Do they then now have more enthusiasm? And that kind of tips what we normally saw with turnout in this election tonight.
And with that district in particular, you had a conservative portion of Hanover County taken out of it, and so that's what's kind of opened the door here for her seat. Let's talk about the Kims in Petersburg. That's a big race. The governor has been in Petersburg focusing on this race. He's even had ads out there saying, this is important. He's announced the jobs in Prince George County right before the election. This is a big race to keep an eye on.
Definitely is. And it's one of the races where early voting was at some of the top of the districts. I think there were around 11,000 early votes, which would put them in kind of the top 5, top 7 of House districts in terms of early voting. So that enthusiasm is definitely out there. The money clearly is, because we've seen the advertisements. And so I think that that's going to be one to watch for as well.
Let's also talk about David Owen and Susanna Gibson. That's a race people have their eyes on. Are we going to see a surprise there? Are we going to see some sort of, a lot of people think David Owen's going to take this now because of what's happened, the scandal that's happened in that district.
We're not really sure how that's going to break. It could actually break the other way.
That would be the surprise.
And as we were looking at the fundraising numbers, once that really became an issue, Gibson's fundraising actually went up a lot, where she outraised him. And so it'll be really interesting in an open seat to see if that actually does sway voters, whereas they may not like the nasty politics of it, and then therefore they either stay home or they go and vote for Gibson.
All right, the big picture here. All eyes on Virginia, watching the implications of what happens here. Are they looking at how these ads played out?
I think they're definitely looking at how the ads played out as far as the abortion issue. But one thing to make note of is that Governor Youngkin was pushing early voting really, really hard. And so if you look at the early voting numbers, a lot of people had already voted before the ads really got biting, before they were really targeted to the other opponent. And so while the advertisements, while the actual pros, the actual things that they were talking about in the ads may be different, a lot of people had already seen them before they, had not seen them before they voted.
Early voting, it's a new world. We got to learn how to deal with that, with the campaign and how long it runs. All right, Dr. Ernest McGowan, thank you, from the University of Richmond. Kurt, Jasmine, back to you.
All right, good insight. Thank you, Rachel. We'll be on your side all night long as results come in. We're on your side, bringing you the latest numbers. And of course, you can join Rachel and our political reporter, Henry Graff, on our streaming platform starting at 8 o'clock. He'll be joined by a team of experts analyzing results in real time. And of course, we'll have a complete wrap up for you tonight on 12 News at 11.
It's now been a month since the surprise Hamas attack that Israel says killed 1,400 people. 240 people are still being held captive in the Gaza Strip. The U.S. confirming they believe 400 U.S. citizens and their families have now made it through that Rafah border crossing into Egypt. And Israel is facing new threats, rockets launching from Lebanon into the country as its military responds with additional fire into Lebanon.
Across Virginia now, James Madison University formally petitioning the NCAA to relax its rules and allow them to be bowl eligible this year. In a letter, the university points to its overall success in the Sun Belt and strong scholarship funding levels, saying, quote, "Our university has embarked on this transition in ways that no other institution since the transition rules changed 23 years ago. The Dukes are undefeated this season and currently are ranked number 21 in the AP Top 25. A 27-year-old Chesterfield woman is found dead about 350 miles from home in Greene County, Tennessee. Lakeisha Bracey's family reported her missing before her body was found last Thursday. Hunters were on a property in the West Pines area to put up a deer stand when they came across the body. The cause of death still under investigation. Officials do not believe foul play is involved.
The Supreme Court hearing what could be a landmark case for the Second Amendment. At this stage, it looks like justices will preserve a federal gun law that keeps guns out of the hands of people who have domestic violence restraining orders against them. Supporters of the law rallied this morning. The case in question involves a Texas man accused of hitting his girlfriend and later threatening to shoot her. We are expecting a decision from justices by next summer. And striking actors not pleased with the best and final offer from Hollywood studios. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television says they will not negotiate any further. But the Actors Union says it disagrees on several essential items, specifically artificial intelligence. The Actors Union says it is determined to end its strike, but also wants the right deal.
The holidays right around the corner, and you may want to start thinking about your Thanksgiving plans right now.
That's because an airline says this will likely be the busiest Thanksgiving holiday on record. We'll explain more next.
But first, more and more Americans are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. What experts say is behind this growing trend in tonight's Consumer Watch. And some initial election results coming in. We'll share them next.
At CoStar Group, we believe in the power of coming together for good. We empower our employees to give back to the communities where they live and work, especially here in Central Virginia, where CoStar Group makes its home. That's why we are proud sponsors of the Salvation Army's Angel Tree program. We are investing in partnerships that reflect the spirit of our growing city and focusing on families, especially during a time of need. It's the foundation for building communities that last. Join CoStar Group and adopt an angel today. Visit NBC12.com to learn how you can help.
You've cast your ballot and the results are already rolling in. Polls closed at 7 and our newsroom is following the latest results from the Department of Elections.
And right now we're seeing initial numbers on Richmond's casino referendum with only 19% of the precincts reporting right now. It's overwhelmingly no. 76% of voters, yes, only 24%.
And we're also seeing results from Henrico County in the Senate District 16 race that's coming in right now with 7% of precincts reporting. Schuyler Van Valkenburg with 51%, Siobhan Dunavant with 49%, a close race at this point right now.
And in House District 82, we'll continue to keep you updated as more numbers come in. 40% of the precincts reporting here, and Kim Taylor with a strong lead at this point. But again, just 40% of the precincts reporting at this time.
A growing number of Americans working multiple jobs, and that's according to the October jobs report from the Labor Department.
In tonight's Consumer Watch, Patrick Cornell on your side with what experts say is behind the federal data and who is leading that trend.
Juggling multiple gigs. The latest jobs report from the Labor Department shows nearly 8.4 million people had multiple jobs in October. That's the highest number since the start of the pandemic. and women appear to be leading that trend. The federal data shows nearly 6% of women worked multiple jobs in October. That's compared to 4.7% of men.
Our cost of living has almost tripled since 2020.
Experts say people may be taking on additional jobs to offset high inflation, which has been easing but is still painfully high for some households. Nonprofits like the United Way say inflation is outpacing wage growth, and that's making it harder for them to help families.
Wages do not reflect how important they are to everyday living.
Remote work is also offering more flexibility and opportunities for workers to manage several jobs from home. And there's also fear that layoffs could have people looking for supplemental jobs, but one economist says layoffs are actually historically low right now.
Companies are reluctant to lose their workers, and they're willing to negotiate even higher salaries to keep them.
U.S. employers added only 150,000 jobs last month. That's the smallest gain since June, signaling the economy is slowing and signaling that the Federal Reserve's action to tame inflation may be working.
The question is, how quickly is it working? We're still far from the 2% target, but inflation has come down quite a bit.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Patrick Cornell reporting.
If you're traveling this Thanksgiving, you'll want to leave even more extra time with your plans. United Airlines says this will likely be the busiest Thanksgiving on record. They're expecting nearly 6 million passengers just through their single airline. And when you're looking at that return date, keep this in mind. The Sunday after Thanksgiving is expected to be the busiest day, both at airports and on the roads.
And temperatures can vary considerably at this time of year, and that has definitely been the case here lately. We had a high today in the low 80s. Tomorrow is a little bit cooler. We'll have highs in the 60s to near 70. Then we bounce back up to near 80 into near record territory for Thursday, and then a little closer to average and a little more consistency by Friday into the weekend. Highs will be cool, not exceptionally chilly, but definitely chilly compared to where we will be on Thursday. Highs of the upper 50s. Then we start to climb back up closer to 70 towards the end of next week. Around the area right now, B&W Builders WeatherNet sites from Midlothian to Goochland to Ashland. We're looking at temperatures in the upper 50s out in Midlothian and the 60s elsewhere. Now tomorrow morning at the bus stop, it will be light jacket weather for the kiddos. Temperatures in the upper 40s now as they come home in the afternoon. Not as warm as it was today when we were near 80 degrees, a little bit cooler, but above average temperature wise. Lots of sunshine. Those temperature readings in the upper 60s. We have mainly clear skies over the area right now. Cold front to the north of us, that's going to slide through a little bit later on this evening. Not much weather associated with it in the form of clouds, no precipitation, but it will shift our winds to the north and northeast tomorrow, and that will push in some slightly cooler air. So we wake up to temperatures in Richmond in the upper 40s near sunrise tomorrow morning. Mid and upper 40s will be common, even around 50 degrees down towards Williamsburg. So a little bit on the cool side to start the day and a little cooler tomorrow afternoon, but our average high is 63 degrees, and I think just about everybody is going to be above that tomorrow. Mid 60s to right around 70 degrees should be our temperature range with a good amount of sunshine all day long, and the wind should be fairly light out of the northeast, eventually shifting to the south and southeast later in the day. Upper 40s at 7 a.m. We're pushing 60 by 10, low 60s by noontime, and our high temperature may briefly touch the 70-degree mark. Now, we really bounce back up to near record territory on Thursday. The record is 81, set back in 1986. We're forecasting 80. It's very possible we get to 81 degrees. But then a front comes in on Thursday night, and we say goodbye to the warmth. We say hello to some light rain showers on Friday. Doesn't look like the rain will add up to all that much, maybe at most a 1/10 of an inch to a 1/4 of an inch. But what it will bring is a chilly, damp day with temperatures in the 50s and even signs that those temperatures may fall a little bit later in the afternoon. Then for marathoners on Saturday morning, the Allianz Richmond Marathon, temperatures will be on the cool side, but good running weather, should be dry. Some lingering clouds, those temperature readings at the beginning of the race in the 40s and the low 50s by 10 o'clock in the morning. Afternoon highs for Veterans Day celebrations will be the upper 50s, so a cool day, but not too far off the average at this time of year. Sunday's partly sunny. We start out in the 30s. Afternoon highs in the upper 50s, and then early next week looks nice and quiet. Seasonable highs will be close to 60. Overnight lows, Kurt and Jasmine, down in the 30s.
All right, back to normal. Normal is good. Thank you, Ross. Get a whiff of this. Absolute Vodka and Kahlua have made a new perfume that smells like an espresso martini. The fragrance is called Blend Number 83. It's a nod to the year the drink was created. The scent is a mix of dark chocolate, sugarcane rum, a special blend of coffee, and a night musk scent. The company say the fragrances flood the senses with silky richness. Pre-orders are open now online. You can snag it for about $105 a bottle.
It is hard to believe with these warm temperatures that the holidays are soon. NBC12 and the Salvation Army working together to make sure everyone in the area has presents under the tree through the Angel Tree program. We need your help, though, to make this happen. You can go to one of the locations on your screen. This is where you adopt an angel or silver bell. They represent a real child or senior in the community. For more information on how to donate or volunteer, you can visit NBC12.com. We will be right back after this.
Only in New Jersey, a man had just made a deal to sell his mint condition Chevy Silverado when that happened. A deer hurdles over a car and crashes right into it. The deer got up, kept running, but left some damage behind. And that was bad news for Jay Vaughn, who just sold his truck.
Just couldn't believe it. You know, you promise the guy the truck's in immaculate condition and a deer comes out of nowhere and just caves the side of it in. What are you going to do? I mean, the guy wanted the truck. He said, I'll just buy a new bed for it.
I'm not going to ever forget this.
Now, in the end, Jay didn't get the $9,400 they'd agreed to. The buyer did agree to buy it for $8,500, so he didn't go away empty-handed.
A food delivery in Florida didn't quite make it to its intended customer. Surveillance footage shows the driver dropped that order outside of a home. Minutes later, though, a black bear just saunters up to the front porch and helps itself to some Taco Bell. The customer's niece says she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw that video.
He came and he grabbed the food, and then he came again for the soda.
Can't have the meal without the soda. The hungry bear made off with $45 worth of Taco Bell. The customer says bears are pretty regular sighting in her neighborhood. Now she's left with an empty stomach out of $45, and no more fast food is coming on the front porch. The encounter was a little too close for comfort.
That's Team Niles Huntley. He's from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Georgia's Brady Linderman. They were teaming up on The Voice for Hold My Hand by Hootie and the Blowfish. But since Monday night was the battle round, one had to go.
The winner of this battle is Huntley.
Huntley, congratulations. You're moving on to the knockouts for Team Niles.
I'm a little shocked right now. Sorry. I'm so excited to call my daughter.
So Huntley moves on, and the knockout continues tonight. In fact, next here on NBC12.
Everyone on there can really sing, but we're back in just a few minutes with our election special, so you might want to miss The Voice for this one. You can watch it on all of our streaming platforms.
Then, of course, join us for complete election coverage on 12 News at 11. Hopefully we'll see you then.
Have a good night.